The rising influencer, Rory Gissing, has proven that fitness can positively affect a person's mental health.
Self-discipline does really go to self-betterment.
However, if it's not kept at a steady balance, it can also cause a person to spiral with calorie obsessions and body dysmorphia.
I was constantly counting calories. It was getting to a dangerous level, almost to a disordered level.
Today, we will be discussing the fine balance of improving your physical fitness while also safeguarding your mental health.
I always knew that my mentality had to be right, and I was fixated on getting back to playing football.
How do we stop ourselves from going from one extreme to another in the chase of perfection?
I'm Tyler.
I'm Scarlett.
And I'm Luke. And this is Word on Wearside. Almost everything in life has its positives and negatives, and I feel this definitely doesn't change when it comes to fitness.
Like Luke's just touched on before there, obviously everything's got its positives and negatives, but within fitness, there's so many. There is so many. Where do you even start? I mean, you know what? Let's go for calorie counting, calorie obsessions. That can be so dangerous, but yet so helpful.
When I was losing a pound per week, I was hitting my goals. But the problem was I didn't realise how much it was affecting me mentally, of every gram of food I was actually measuring every time I was waking up. Not even every time I was waking up, it was at least 3 times a day I was weighing myself, and it just really affected me mentally.
I can relate a bit to that as well. Obviously, when I started calorie tracking for the very first time, it started off as a little bit of a hobby. I'd just see sort of what was in the fridge and just be like, oh, I'll quickly check them calories. But then it became more obsessive as I kept going on because I was building weight, and then I just didn't know how to pretty much cut it out. It ended up being where I had to remove all the scales in my house, and because I was just so obsessed with hitting a certain kg every month. Because setting little mini goals for yourself's really good, but sometimes when I get too obsessed on a goal, every so many months I'd have to hit this certain target, and I felt kind of pressure towards doing that.
I think obsessed is definitely the word to use for calorie counting. I mean, it got to a point for me where it was the case of my partner was actually getting pretty annoyed because we couldn't go out for a meal because I couldn't count the calories, or I couldn't even go to the cinema. You know, everyone likes to pick on things in the cinema, but I couldn't enjoy that experience as much, and it affected the people around me. You can't do things daily because you're too focused on, can I go out for this meal? Oh, I can't, I've already ate this much today, I've ate this many calories today, so I can't actually fit it. And I think you don't realise at the time, but it starts to affect outside of fitness and outside of your fitness goals.
A good example of negatives turning to positives was personal trainer Michaela Dempsey, who gave us her story on how she went through body transformation and some of the setbacks and struggles that she faced.
I kind of got into my fitness journey on kind of a rough start, to be honest. I was more focused on calories and getting skinny and being thin, and I did lose all of the baby fat I had when I was younger, and I really slimmed down. But then I got a bit obsessive. It was really weird. I was constantly counting calories. I was doing 300 sit-ups every night in my room. It was getting to a dangerous level, almost to a disordered level. Really, I've gone completely the other way now, and I'm really into just getting stronger and getting healthier. It's strength over aesthetics, really, and health over aesthetics, which is, I think, the best way to be about it.
So I went from being an overweight individual to someone who was now a healthy individual, who went from having sessions that were purposely based on burning calories to whereas now, like I say, as a healthy individual who determines their sessions and has a successful session in the gym based on whether I'm achieving hypertrophy and gaining strength, which is what I feel healthy doing. And I can definitely relate to Michaela on that part because, like I said, that's what she experienced herself.
I kind of had a very positive change over COVID and lockdown. So obviously this was all happening when I was 16, 17, a teenager. COVID happened and I got into some new hobbies that were really good. I took on a lot more martial arts. I was always doing taekwondo, but I took on Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, and I started weightlifting because I wanted to be stronger for that. And then because I was doing all of these things I loved, I started enjoying exercise as opposed to using it as a way to get skinny and just as a chore that I had to do every day. I was doing this to be good at it, and I was really loving it, and I wanted to be good at it, and I wanted to be stronger, and I wanted to be fitter. And slowly I stopped thinking about food and calories so much and started focusing more on getting stronger and getting fitter and getting healthier and competing and like being the best at what I'm doing as opposed to looking the best.
Sort of something similar to Michaela as well, how she spoke about getting into a sport to try and improve her mental health. With football, obviously I couldn't do football anymore because of life taking over. And I always still love sport, like I love any sport really. So in the summer I did take up paddle quite often. It's basically this new sport which is similar, very similar to tennis. But I took up paddle and I absolutely loved it. And that kind of helped me as well, just focus on getting myself back into that like sort of sport and keeping that competitive side.
It's not just keeping the competitive side that's important, it's also keeping a routine. What some people don't understand is how vital day-to-day routines can be in someone's life.
When I was about 8, I started in an academy, and playing in an academy, you get into a routine. I used to play football 6 times a week for about 14 years. So when the day came that I finally stopped doing that, it was kind of just a massive shock to the system. And I think it definitely got me very familiarised at that constant level of training and those constant endorphin releases. And I think on that day when I was released and it suddenly all stopped, that's when I realised that my mental health was kind of spiralling out of control. I think injuries are a huge factor that's also not spoken about enough in general. As we've mentioned before about routines and getting used to those set habits that we need in our life to feel satisfactory, when that all suddenly stops, I think you feel physically unable to do exercise, and I think that is the part what's really mentally draining, and that you don't get that release from the world, as obviously we've previously mentioned.
We spoke to South Shields Women FC footballer Josie Foster about this and her reoccurring ACL injuries.
First one was definitely a lot harder. There was a lot of shock involved, I think, and yeah, just being really shocked and overwhelmed, but taking in a lot of information all at once. It was definitely mentally hard as well, like playing football for such a long period of time, and then being told, you can't play for 10, 12 months. It was really tricky. I ruptured my ACL in America, and it was around the time of COVID as well, so obviously I had to fly home with a torn ACL during COVID, wearing all the masks and things, so it was really difficult. It added on a bit of waiting time as well for the surgery, which wasn't ideal. Mentally, it was really difficult, like I say, rupturing my ACL, which is like heartbreaking in itself, and then obviously the big pandemic that happened, so it was a lot of emotions definitely, but I'm really glad that I was able to come home and get the surgery and have, my family around us to support us during us not being able to walk and do much by myself. So as much as it was really difficult, it was nice to be home and to be looked after a little bit. I always knew that my mentality had to be right, and I was fixated on getting back to playing football.
I think what she just said there about getting home and being surrounded by her family is really important and something that you can kind of forget about. You can only control the controllables, so obviously an unfortunate event such as her ACL injury, she couldn't do anything about that, whereas she's made sure that she's surrounding herself with people that care about her, and that must have had such a positive impact on her mental health when going through such a hard time, and I think that's quite a unspoken factor. You've got to make sure you're surrounded with the right people who are going to be able to help you through tough times.
We also spoke to IFBB pro Rory Gissing, and he has recently been dealing with a bicep tear. So, that's been really detrimental to his both physical and mental health.
It's a hell of a setback. Not making content was a big bulk of my day. I would spend 2-3 hours a day making content, so that was cut out, which means I was actually kind of bored for the majority of my day.
What's really interesting to hear is not only that Rory is halting his career and the progress he's making, it's also getting rid of that positive influx that the gym has on people. A lot of people underestimate actually the side effects of the gym, not just what it does to your body, making you look aesthetically pleasing. No, the gym actually really creates benefits outside of the gym, both mentally for you.
What fitness and bodybuilding will do is it really does teach you discipline, dedication, and I guess how to grind through life. You have to be so strict and so disciplined. Like self-discipline does really go to self-betterment.
I think what's interesting about both Rory and Josie is they've had to take a big step back from what they do every day and every week, and because of that, that's putting a massive gap on not just progress but also experience. For example, when Josie said about her ACL injury taking her out for 12 months, that's an entire year of playing football. I think it can put a massive pause on a career.
Because you're looking from two different worlds, a footballer and a bodybuilder. Josie's looked at it quite positively and that she's going to play again, whereas Rory's described it as a massive setback.
Rory's bicep tear it's the first he's had of that injury. Whereas when we look at Josie's scenario, she's had 2 ACL injuries, and, you know, from the contrast of one of them being in America during COVID to the other where, you know, she knows what she's expecting, she knows the process, she knows what she has to go through, and she knows she can do it again. Whereas when it's the first time, I think first times are more scary. Josie's admitted herself that the second time was easier, so strengthen your mindset because you know you can bounce back because you've done it once, so you can do it again.
It's definitely interesting to see the difference in perspective of how people take negatives in their lives. And no matter who you are, how big you look, it ultimately comes down to how each individual's unique mindset operates. And I think that's a very important point when comparing the balance of fitness and people's mental health.
I think balancing fitness and mental health is a very individual journey that nobody knows the right answer to. For me, it's not doing too much, but still enough to have goals and something to work towards.
Your mind and body are unique to you, and your needs may be completely different to somebody else's. Your story will look different to others, and that is completely okay. Take your time, learn what works for you, and most importantly, have fun with your fitness journey.
Overall, throughout the episode, we hope we have spread awareness that it's okay to feel down sometimes, and that the relationship between physical fitness and mental health intertwine. I've been Luke.
I've been Scarlett.
I've been Tyler.
Thanks for listening.